Well, hello YouTubers. Hey, I'm going to start this project outside in my bark stripping tent, my chainsaw carving tent, or whatever you want to call it. It's going to be about this honeysuckle sapling. They kind of grow in clusters up like so. This was in a fork, and I used a fork in a previous video. I have a link to that up above here somewhere if I can get it there. I used the bigger part here for the shillelagh going up the other direction. I'm going to try to keep it as round as possible, and it's very round and smooth now. A little bit of trimming on this end needs to be done, but let's get busy and skin this bark off of here and get it in a jaw horse, and let's see what it turns out to be. First, I'm going to start by as usual, getting it set up in a jaw horse, something like this. And what we do is, I got it, there it is. Now I can get this much of it, leave it little, and then I of course move it around and finally get it all off of there. And I use this radial arm saw. It's a Hercules, comes from Harbor Freight, and that really peels that off. Now you can use a lot of people use a draw knife. I use the angle grinder, and it's a lot more easier, and it has a safety trigger on it to where you don't accidentally start it with your hand up here. Anything, you have to pull this back. Little trigger here, you pull back. If you don't pull that back, you can't press it down. If you turn it loose, it automatically stops. So it's a good safety feature on the things. I'm gonna go now, shut up, and get it skinned up, bark skinned off of it. Let's go inside and we'll get this on a sander and get it cleaned up, and then we'll put a topper. I have a brand new thing to go on top here. Now it is made of resin, but it's going to be a little different. You want to stay tuned, stay with me, and see what it is. Here on the bench, taking it down, taking the inner bark off here, all the way down. I'm going to do that with an orbital sander, the 150 grit. And after I do the 150, I will go over it with this 120 orbital, and I think we'll have it. So with my face mask on here, positive pressure mask, at least you need some kind of a protection if you're going to do this much sanding. Okay, now I think we can see how white and nice looking this stick is. About ready to put the finish on. We'll put the finish on before we put the cap on it. Now, we got the stick all slick and white here. It's the honeysuckle don't have a very distinctive grain. It has some lines in it, but don't have a real distinctive grain. However, it takes stain quite well, and golden oak soaks in and really gives it that oak appearance. So I'm going to stir this just a little bit. This is my golden oak finish. I'm going to always make sure that it is golden oak before I take too much of a dip into it. But what I'm going to do is take this cloth and just rub this in good. I'm going to lay right here tonight and let it dry. I'm going to put a stick under that end and a stick, scrap sticks laying around. I'll put it there, that way it don't touch down, and we're ready to go. So let's just start getting some stain wiped on that now. Before, if I want it darker, I always put more coats on, but this light wood gives it a nice smooth finish, and I think it will be appropriate. We're going to let that dry now overnight. Take a look at it in the morning, and then it should be ready for a clear finish, and we'll hang it up to dry. But now the finish has to be done before you put your paracord wrap or the handle on the top. Okay, for a stick topper today, I'm going to show you how I put it together. You have to figure out a way to keep those things solid and don't float. I had to do some trimming on the base. I'm going to have to put the resin in there with a funnel. I have a small, very small funnel here, and I had to cut a hole big enough after I got the base locked in there for that tunnel to stick down in there, and I'll pour my resin right down in that funnel and fill that up, and it's solid fixed in there to where it'll stay upright the way I want it, and it won't float. But if you use any kind of glue to glue your thing or object down, it's going to come off, it's going to ruin your silicone. So I'll stick that where it belongs, and we'll set that aside for right now. I have a silicone cup that I mix in. Today, just with that little bowl, I only have to fill up to one of these marks. Let's get started and see what we got here. Now it's about halfway up to that line, and I kind of calculated that it will fill up that ball. So hopefully that's true. If not, we'll have to mix some more. But I'm going to pour that now till I'm watching the line, and that's going to be close enough to 50-50. You can weigh it if you want to. A lot of people weighs it. I've had success just eyeballing 50-50. And I put it in a pressure pot, and that just puts it under air pressure, and I let them go from one day to the next, so it's generally about close to 24 hours. I poured it immediately after mixing 2 to 4 minutes, and it's worked out just fine. So now, here's the process, and it'll pour rather slow, but I'll get it in there, and you have to pour the funnel full, give it time to run out. It's going to take some time to do that. When I get that filled up, I'll be back and I'll show you how I put it in the pressure pot. What I'm doing now is bringing it right on up to the top, and I don't want to run it over, but I do want to get it full. And I believe we've just about got it there. So I'm going to throw that in the trash now. And now what you want to do is look real quick and make sure your object is still standing. It's upside down now, but you want to make sure that it's square up with it, and make any adjustments. You can take a small stick or anything, get in there and move it a little bit at this point, but it looks pretty good to me right there. So I'll carefully pick it up, and we'll be right over to pressure pot, and you'll be able to see that. Okay, here we are at the pressure pot. You can pick it up here and kind of get it moved over out of the way while you're putting your silicone in there. I only have one today, so I'm going to stick it right in there with that. We got to position it where we can still tighten our clamps. So I have a regulator valve set under 50 pounds. So just now set it, just like set it and forget it, and we'll be back tomorrow and we'll open it up. So we're going to take our crystal that we made, a resin crystal, and with Jesus carrying the cross, and you seen we poured that yesterday, and it comes out just crystal clear. Now what we do is to mount it on the end of the stick, we will just try to place that as straight up as possible with the bottom up at every angle, and you can eyeball it around this way, and that maybe back just a little bit. You get it just about as centered up as you can, and find about the center this way, and then with a 1/4 inch drill, you're going to put a 1/4 inch dowel in that protruding from the end of the stick, and so we get it centered up, and just go down in there for just a little bit. I put a convex end in the end of this stick. I just make a pocket in there that this crystal will set in, and we'll put the little epoxy right in the top of that. And then I've got a 1/4 inch dowel epoxied in the end of this crystal, and I'll stick it in, and there's a hole drilled in there, and I stick that right down on there. So we'll push that right down in there real good, and you see it sets right down in that pocket. He's leading the way with that cross right there. Let's set that in the corner and let that epoxy dry for 4 hours, and it will be on there for eternity. First, we're going to just wrap this. It's not going to be a braid. It's going to be a very simple wrap. There's not going to be any knots. Go down 2 to 3 inches. Now you want to go up and leave a loop that's going to become your hand strap. I make mine about 6, 7 inches. Now I want to go down and let this other loop stick out 1 inch or so below where you're going to wrap. We're going to wrap below this little knot here, right to there, so our loop is going to go a little bit further. Now we have 3 of these right up together here, and you still got your loop hanging right there. Now this wrap is going to start right below the crystal, so take your thumb and just really hold down on that. There's your loop. On the first wrap, you bring it over the top of that like that, over the top and under this loop to get you started. Now you can begin to pull it kind of tight, and it will hold there, but you want to get a few turns to get that. Now all you have is that loop coming out. My little end piece is shorter than what I'm going to wrap. This wrap comes out below that knot, just so you stop wrapping before you cover that loop up. Tighten it up a little bit and start wrapping. Wrap up a couple more. Now get it all pushed up, but see, you have it there. I think we can see it there. It's covered up where the crystal is attached to the stick. Now you can turn, keep these kind of together here. If you're not trying to keep it on camera, it'll be a little easier for you. But what we want to do is just wrap it round and round. Just go around the stick. Then you can move it a strand at a time. See that little crack right in there, and you can see the wood? I'm going to pull that up like that and get it covered. Make sure it's covered all the way around. Anything to do with the cross, I use purple. All we have sticking out now is that loop that we're going to contend with later. Have a little fuzz right there. And we can eliminate that. That's the end of that other chute that we had down through there. Now I went past that, and you see it a little bit sticking out there. What I'm going to do is go back, and I'm going to make sure that that's covered up by paracord. Now it's underneath there, and we didn't go too far with it. Now that's not sticking out, and I don't have to contend with it later. Okay, wrap some more. And you can wrap probably all the way down. But see, I have a lot of just small spaces really together up here. Now down here, a little space in there. So I'm going to take my thumbnail and just push that up, tight against one another. Now, one thing I'd like to note, don't get it just dog tight as you can get it. If you get it too tight, what's going to happen, your loop has to pull back up through there with one of these loops here. That loop is hooked to that, that's going to pull this end back up through there. If you get this wrapped too tight, then you'll have a hard time pulling that back up through there. I'm going to go around. That's enough right there. The paracord needs to poke through from the bottom side of that loop also. And it'll go through there. There it is. Make sure your last loop around here goes up under this direction. Now, make sure you keep that pulled down snug until you find out which one of these loops here is hooked to that loop. And then there it is right there. And once we get it pulled up to there, then we don't have to worry about it coming unraveled so much. But we've got to get that to pop up in there. And by that, we know that's out of there. Now see, then when you got out of that loop, this cord has come through there and straightened out. And this loop now is no longer in there. That's just going straight down. That loop is going down right there and coming back without an end in it. So you want to stop right there. You don't want to pull that all the way out because that's your hand strap right there. So now what we'll do is leave it just where it is, and we can push it up tighter on the stick like so, and we've got it wrapped solid. Let's take a final look at that and do a review of what we've done. Well, my friends and YouTubers out there, I'll tell you, we've created a beautiful stick here, and I want to just make a few final comments and review what we've done. I especially like the purple hand wrap that we just done, and you see the loop comes out real neatly at the top, and that's your hand strap. It goes around, you can twist it a few times and carry it like that. It gives you a nice place to hang it on the coat rack or something if you want to hang it by the door or entryway. The reason I put this wrap so close up here to this cross was that the stick is shorter. Let me show you. Let's go down and look at that. The stick overall is 45 inches long. I'll give you a close-up of her topper now, and there it is. There's Jesus carrying a cross. I printed that with a 3D printer, and that you can see the front, the back, all the way around. I think turned out pretty good. Has a hand grip there, suitable for a king. Jesus is our king. That's about it for today. With that, I want to say if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. And be sure, if you haven't subscribed, if you want to see more of my making of walking sticks and a few other things, then hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I'd just like to say that I'll see you in the next video.